Late Night Louie, 278th installment of the Louie T Network podcast. Feels good to be back behind the mic. A lot to get to. This is the week that I've been waiting for because most teams will find themselves in training camp by the end of this week. So we're about to be at a point where we will be with football for the next month. We won't have to worry about a non-football Sunday after, I think it's not this coming week, but the following week, we'll get the Hall of Fame game. And from that point forward, we will have football for each of the next 6 months worth of Sundays. Bart Scott can't wait. So AFC West preview and prediction tonight. We're going to go through each of those schedules with a fine-tooth comb. I'll give you my predictions for each of those teams in that division. This, I think, is the toughest division in all of football. I expect the Super Bowl winner this year to come out of this division. I think that iron sharpens iron. I'm a big proponent of that. So we'll get to that. A lot of different alternate helmets being thrown out there. I'll tell you the ones I like. Some of them I do not like. We'll get to that as well. How about Kyler Murray's contract and the little stipulation that they put in there? I think it kind of tells us a little something about Kyler Murray. That and so much more on the 278th installment of the Louie T Network podcast that starts now. Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie T? Welcome to the 278th installment of the Louie T Network podcast. I, of course, am your set man, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. So tonight we will talk AFC West. This division is absolutely loaded top to bottom. There is not a single weak link in this division. No easy victories for any of the teams in this division. The one thing I can say, however, is that this division is playing the AFC South. So that does give them a bit of reprieve there. And one of the NFC teams that each team in the division will play is from the NFC South. So not everybody's going to get a break there. Kansas City, unfortunately, and even the Raiders to a lesser extent won't get a break. But the Chargers and the Broncos will get a layup there if they are able to take care of business. So these are tough schedules in their own right. Okay, AFC West playing the NFC West. That's no pushover, right? You're gonna have some toughies in there. San Francisco, the defending Super Bowl champion Los Angeles Rams. Arizona's not going to be an easy out. So this is a very respectable schedule, and then they have to play themselves. So this is going to be one that I will enjoy going through, and I think there's going to be a lot of different, people feeling like the outcome of this division could go in any which way, and if you're a fan of any team in this division, you're saying, why not us this year? So we'll get to these schedules and the preview to these schedules and the outcome of what I think will be these schedules a little bit later on in the show. First off, I want to start by asking you, how was your weekend? Mine was very relaxing. I did not do much of anything. However, I did consume quite a bit of television. And I got to give a shout out. I want to say it was my guy, Alex. I'm not sure. It might have been someone else. Someone told me to check out the Adam Sandler movie Hustle. And I told him that was on my radar, that I had already marked it as a favorite, that I wanted to watch it. And we got to it not this past weekend, but the weekend prior. And I forgot to bring it up. But it was fantastic. Enjoyed every single moment of that movie. And I would recommend it to anyone out there. Not an action-packed movie, obviously, but it is a movie that kind of gives you an insight as to what an NBA scout goes through. And I love the fact that they made it so real, with real NBA players, real NBA coaches. LeBron James was one of the producers of the movie. He was an executive, so he oversaw that entire process. So you got some players to agree to do this because of some of the heavy hitters that were involved behind the scenes. So it was a well-done movie. I enjoyed every part of it. And if you enjoy the NBA, I think you'll enjoy this movie quite a bit. Then me and my wife are more of action people. And the type of movie that we like. So I'm a suspense, action, comedy guy. Those are my movies. Probably in that order. I love a good laugh, but I think action suspense movies trump anything else. And in particular, we love the badass movies. What are those? So the badass movie really consists of the main character having some kind of strife at the beginning of the movie where their kid gets killed, wife gets killed, kidnapped, something of that ilk. Some kind of tragedy strikes early in the movie, and then they vow to get revenge. And that's usually 90% of all badass movies. Is it starts out with the plot of something happens, home invasion, someone gets killed, this, that, or the third. Now they have to go avenge everyone that was killed or hurt or whatever the case may be, kidnapped. Um, that's 90% of the badass genre. The other 10% is usually military based, where a guy's been trained to kill, he doesn't know how to do anything else, something goes awry, maybe he has a loved one, they find him, they kidnap him, or they go after one of his superiors, someone that he really respects, whatever the case may be. He has to go find a way to save them, yada yada yada, or he's given a mission, not told why he was given this mission, turns out to be a poor mission or a bad mission, one that he doesn't believe in. Now he's on the run because he's not doing what they told him to do, that kind of movie. Whatever the case may be. I watched a movie that was similar to that in The Gray Man. Oh my God, that movie was so good. Anything with Ryan Gosling in that type of a role, I know is going to be good. What I was shocked, though, was watching Chris Evans in a actual villain role. We've never seen that. This is Captain America. You never see Chris Evans in a bad guy role. He was fantastic, by the way, in that role, opposite of Ryan Gosling, who was the main character and the protagonist. It was an awesome movie. I won't give anything away, but just know it is worth the price of admission. That is on Netflix. Then we turned over, or actually, after we watched Wrath of a Man, that's on Prime Video, and that's with Jason Statham. And it was like every other Jason Statham movie you've ever seen. No really big plot twist here. Only thing that kept you guessing was you didn't know who the inside man was. We had our suspicions, we didn't know, but it's one of those types of movies. That's a good movie there. The 90% that I had explained to you in the badass genre applies to this movie, where I'll just tell you this: his son gets killed, and now he's out for revenge. That's all, and that's not giving away much of anything. You watch the preview, you'd see that. But anyway, it was a really good movie. Not as good as The Gray Man. It's what I expected from a Jason Statham movie, but nonetheless, it still delivered. That was a good movie. Enjoyed those thoroughly. And like I said, 2 weeks ago, I hit Hustle. That was great. So any other movies out there that you guys think would tickle my fancy, please let me know, because all the recommendations that I've been given they've come up big. I don't think I've had one yet that has been an awful watch. So had a great weekend watching movies, and I look forward to being able to watch more in the near future. That time is going to dwindle as football gets underway, though, so I'm enjoying it now. My wife is really enjoying it, because once football gets kicked off, there won't be as many opportunities to do this. So anyway, I digress. We'll get to Kyler Murray in a little bit later on in the show. We'll get to these alternate helmets a little bit later on in the show. What I want to do now is I want to focus in on the AFC West, because this is probably going to be the most exciting division to watch unfold throughout the 2022 NFL season. You can't give me enough of these games on primetime television this year. And I'm not even an AFC West guy. My team resides in the NFC East, but I'm a football guy first and foremost. And I could watch just about every single game in this division unfold on national television. You can't give me enough of these to satisfy my palate for this division. It's just going to be that good this season if all the quarterbacks stay healthy. It's anybody's show except for Vegas. I'm sorry. I just can't see the Vegas Raiders being better than any of the other three teams in the division. But that's not saying that the Vegas Raiders aren't going to make the playoffs or aren't going to compete at a very high level. Anything can happen, as we all know. Who saw Vegas making the playoffs last year, especially with all the turmoil that they had? So anything can happen, but this division is just absolutely loaded. So enough talking. Let's get to the proceedings this evening. And you know how we start off each and every single one of these podcast episodes, of course, with a gem dropping session. Let me drop this gem on your melon. Open your mind, let your conscience be free. You're now rolling with your man, Louie T double E. Let me open you up. Get you thinking a little bit. So we're going to jump right into the schedules for the upcoming season in the AFC West. You know how I like to go through these with a fine-tooth comb. First, we will go through each and every single game very quickly, and then we will come back and look at the schedule in its entirety. And I'm going to give you the block of the schedule or blocks for some of these teams that are of the utmost importance to the success of the upcoming season. So let's start with what is this now? What are we on? Year 5 in a row, 6. I lost count a long time ago of how many years in a row that the Kansas City Chiefs have won the AFC West. It's becoming a joke, but the gap is closing so quickly now. And with the Tyreek Hill trade, I think the rest of the teams in the division look and say, this is the year. This is the year we finally penetrate and knock the Chiefs off of the throne. We'll see. I think they've done a really solid job of trying to replace what has been lost. They may actually be even more dangerous offensively with more weapons. We'll see. One of those guys that they were hoping panned out for them, Justin Ross, the former Clemson wide receiver that they got as an undrafted guy, is already out for the season. I don't know if he'll ever play NFL football. You know, he had that terrible injury with the ridiculous surgery. Anytime we start talking about spinal fusions and things of that nature, everyone gets nervous, which is why he wasn't drafted. The guy's a supremely gifted talent, but no one's willing to be the team that puts that guy on the field and ends up having something catastrophic happen. Well, he's already out for the season. They didn't disclose why. They just said he's out for the season. We'll see what happens there, but they weren't counting on him. They were just hoping he would turn out to be something. So anyway, let's get into the Kansas City Chiefs and their 2022 NFL schedule. So let's run through this thing quickly, and then we'll come back and I will give you my analysis on what I think are some of the big stretches of football for the Chiefs. At Arizona, week 1, home for the Chargers, Thursday Night Football. Remember, we got that at the NFL draft. That was the first game that we learned about as a primetime game. It's the very first game we will get on Amazon Prime, as they have taken over the Thursday night games. We'll have, I think, Al Michaels and Kirk Herbstreit calling that game. So everything's going to be jumbled around. Everything's brand new in terms of these broadcasting booths. Obviously, the number one team formerly of Fox, Joe Buck, they're now on ESPN doing Monday Night Football. So everything is different now. And that's going to be one of the different things is Al Michaels no longer at NBC. That's now Mike Tirico's seat next to Chris Collinsworth, but he's now doing Thursday Night Football. That'll be the first one. Chargers will be at the Kansas City Chiefs. Those two Lockhorns, it's always fun because that's the one team that has given the Chiefs ample problems over this, run of winning the division. That's been the one team that's consistently beaten them, even when they've been 13-3, 14-2, whatever the case may be. Back to when Phillip Rivers was there and beating them on a Thursday night. I mean, or was it a Saturday night? I can't remember, but it was a fun game. This is the team that's always been a thorn in their side, so that'll be interesting early in the season. At Indy, week 3. At Tampa Bay, week 4. That is on a Sunday night, so that'll be a barn burner. Brady versus Mahomes, what are we on now? Like part 4, I believe that is now. Well, in Tampa, that is. Got the Super Bowl. I think they've played each of the last 2 years in the regular season, and now we're getting a third game in the regular season. Rams at the crib, Monday Night Football. So in the first 5 weeks of the season, the Chiefs have 3 primetime matchups. I mean, what else do you expect when you see the heavy hitters that they're playing in the first 5 weeks of the season? Home for Buffalo, week 6. At San Francisco, then comes the bye week in week number 8. Come off the bye, you're home for Tennessee on a Sunday night. Then you're on at home in week 10 for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Then here comes a vicious, flavor-delicious stretch of football here that we'll come back to a little bit later on. At the Chargers in week 11, home for the Rams in week, and I think I said Rams earlier. That was the Raiders, on a Monday night in week 5. This is the Rams here in week 12 on at home. At Cincinnati in week 13. At Denver on a Sunday night in week 14. Then you get out of that stretch at Houston week 15, home for Seattle week 16, home for Denver week 17, at the Raiders to finish up in week 18. So let's go back through this schedule, and I'll tell you the key stretches of football that I'm going to be focused in on for the Kansas City Chiefs. So right out of the gate, I think the first 7 weeks of football prior to the bye, it's imperative. Remember how the Chiefs struggled last season. I believe they started the season off in typical Chiefs fashion, like 2-0, 3-0, whatever that was. And then they really hit a rough patch. They struggled. I think they started off the season last year 2-0. It might have been, I know the Chargers beat them very early in the season. It might have been week 2, so they might have been 1-1. But whatever the case may be, they started to struggle early in the season. They had an identity crisis. Mahomes struggled for the first time in his career. And I think they were under 500. I think they were 3-4 at one point of the season, if I'm not mistaken, before they got on their horse, did what the Chiefs do, ran off 6 or 7 straight victories, got their act together. And I think it was after an ass whipping on the road at Tennessee, they took a brutal beating. I mean, there were a couple of times last year where we questioned, is this it? Is this the end of the Chiefs as we know it? And they got their asses kicked by the Titans. They got their asses handed to them on a Sunday night by the Bills. I mean, it was embarrassing what the Bills did to them. And they were able to pick themselves up off the canvas multiple times, right the ship, get all the way back to the AFC Championship. And this year, though, it's going to be a lot tougher because there's no Denver with Drew Lock or Teddy Bridgewater at quarterback that you can feast on. The Raiders are always tough, but they've used to figure out a way to navigate through the Raiders. They should have gotten swept by the Chargers last year. There's no NFC East that you can sweep over this year like they did last year, beating the entire NFC East. It's going to be tough. This is the NFC West you're playing this year, so you have to get off to a much better start. And I think the first 7 games are going to be huge for them. At Arizona, right out of the gate, I mean, the Cardinals, remember, you say what you want about the Arizona Cardinals. They started off the season 7-0 last year and were the last undefeated team in the league. They're no slouch, especially at their building now. They were terrible at home with the Arizona Cardinals last year, but still, that's going to be a tough one right out of the gates for the Chiefs. Home for the Chargers in week 2 on a Thursday night. Quick turnaround after your week 1 contest, and you've got the Chargers coming to your building, a place where the Chargers have absolutely disrespected you in every single way imaginable. The last 2 years, you've lost at home to these Chargers. So that's going to be a big game. I mean, if you want to send an early season statement, that's how you do it. It's taking care of the Chargers in week 2. But the Chargers have been the ones sending statements to the Chiefs the last couple of years early in the season. We'll see if that continues or not. At Indy in week 3, not going to be easy. They've got Matt Ryan. That's a defense that's been good over the last couple of years. They got a new defensive coordinator in Matt Eberflus, they lost their defensive coordinator in Matt Eberflus. So I'm anxious to see if the Indianapolis Colts defensively are going to be as dominant as they've been the last couple of years. But we'll find out early. That's going to be a really good test for both teams in that football game at Indy in week 3. And then at Tampa Bay on a Sunday night in week 4. That's a very, very fascinating matchup because Tampa Bay's schedule is going to be brutal this season. So is this Chiefs schedule. I think they've got one of the toughest schedules that I've seen. I think Tampa Bay, I haven't seen their schedule yet. I would like to imagine with all the teams that I've done and all the time I've looked at these different teams and these tough teams, Tampa Bay seems to be on every one of their schedules. So this is going to be fascinating to see what the Buccaneers schedule looks like. But at Tampa Bay, seems like every time these teams play in the regular season, it's at Tampa Bay. I can't recall them playing a regular season game at Arrowhead, but that's going to be tough to go on the road, beat Brady. And so we'll see if they can do that in this football game. So the first 3 out of 4 games of the season for the Chiefs are on the road against playoff teams from a season ago, sans for Indy. And we like to think that Indy is, if not better, they're at least the same kind of quality of opponent that they were a season ago, which they were one of the teams that you really didn't want to see because of the way they could run the football and the way that they play defense. So that's going to be a tough stretch to open. Then you go after that 3 out of 4 on the road to kick off the season, you go home and Vegas is waiting on you on a Monday night. So, you've got a Thursday night against the Chargers. You've got a Sunday night on the road at Tampa, and then a Monday night game at home versus Vegas. Again, another playoff opponent, another family business affair early in the season. Then home for Buffalo. Are you kidding me? I mean, does this thing ease up at any point? So Arizona, playoff team from a season ago. Chargers could have easily have been a playoff team last year. Should have been if their coach would have just allowed the Raiders to allow the game to finish in the tie. Indy fell 1 game short of being a playoff team last year. Tampa Bay, playoff team from a season ago. Vegas Raiders, playoff team from a year ago, and family business. And then Buffalo, your arch nemesis, a team that you've had to take out in the postseason each of the last 2 years. And your epic matchup last year spawned a brand new playoff overtime rule. So that is going to be must-see TV there. I would have actually preferred that to be one of the primetime matchups, but I'm pretty sure CBS said, look, you can't take all the good ones from me. I want this one, and I'm going to make sure we preserve it. So that's going to be week 6. And then week 7 at San Francisco. We know what they can be offensively. And again, another playoff team. So in their first 7 games of the season, 5 of them are against playoff teams from a season ago. And the 2 games against non-playoff teams from a season ago were teams that missed the postseason by a single game. Okay, so this is a brutal start to the season for Kansas City. But if you're the Chiefs and you want to show everybody that despite, Tyreek Hill no longer being there, despite having some contractual issues with your left tackle, Orlando Brown, everything's good over here. You don't need to check in on us. We're good. Start 5-2. Start 5-2. And I'm going to say, all right, maybe the Chiefs are poised to repeat again in this division. If they're 4-3, okay, anything less than 5-2, then I'm keeping a watchful eye on the Chiefs. 4-3, 3-4. If they're under 500 after this stretch of football, then they're in trouble. They're in trouble. If they're 4-3, okay, I got my eye on you, but I trust you because you've built up enough equity. If you're 5-2, 6-1, 7-0, oh shit, here we go again. Okay, that's what you should be saying because this is brutal. Okay, keep in mind that in those first 7 games, 4 of them are on the road. Okay, so and 3 out of the first 4 are on the road. So these are brutal. 5 playoff opponents from a season ago. This is a brutal start. If they can navigate this at 5-2 or better, they're going to be one of the best teams, not just in this division, but one of the best teams in football in 2022. I got another stretch of football, and I talked about this when I was going over the schedule initially, and that's this week 11 through week 14 stretch of football with this Chiefs football team. I mean, are you kidding me? I don't know if it gets any tougher than this, okay? And this is another 3 out of 4 on the road stretch, so this is brutal. I think this might be the most brutal 4-game stretch of any team this season that we'll look at as we go through these schedules. I don't think you can get a tougher 4-game stretch than this. At the Chargers, okay? Now, they've had success, unlike teams in the division like the Raiders and the Broncos. They've had success at LA, okay? Each of the last 2 years, they've had to go to LA and win because the Chargers have come to Kansas City and Arrowhead and gotten a win. So they had to go to Los Angeles and win in order to split with them. So that's going to be fun to see what happens in week 2. And then, ultimately, if they lose in week 2 or if they win, can they go for the sweep or are they looking to salvage a split there? But that's huge. That's going to be a big game at the Chargers week 11. Home for the Super Bowl defending champion Los Angeles Rams in week 12. Okay, so the one home game you get in this stretch just happens to be against a team that hoisted the Lombardi a season ago. Then you go back to the scene of the crime, or well, it was a crime last year, but it wasn't a murder. But you go back to Cincinnati, a team that you played twice last year, lost to them both times, including a wild and wacky regular season game in Cincinnati where the Bengals roared back and ultimately won the football game. So you're going to play the team that you met in the AFC Championship game that came to your building, spotted you a 21-3 lead, hawked you down, and beat you in overtime in the Cincinnati Bengals. And then you're going to play the Denver Broncos in Denver on a Sunday night, and the new and improved, revamped, and ultra dangerous Denver Broncos led by Russell Wilson in week 14. Chargers on the road, Rams at the crib, Bengals on the road, Broncos on the road. That is absolutely brutal 4-game stretch. Again, if you come out of the first 7 at 5-2 or better, and then you come into this stretch at 7-3 or 6, well, you'd be 6-3 or 7-2, then you get a little bit of leeway if you're 7-2. If you're 6-3, you got a little bit of breathing room where you can go 2-2 in this stretch and still be fine. at 8-5, you're fine because you've got Houston and Seattle and some teams you can beat up on, you know, to get you to double digits and then possibly get you hot towards the end of the season, get you to 12-5, and now you're you know, in the mix for an AFC West crown. But this is the stretch of football that I think ultimately decides which way the Chiefs go, because again, 5-2, 6-1, you know, 7-0 in that first 7 stretch. They're not going 7-0. I can't see them winning every single one of those games. But if they come out of that first stretch 5-2 or better, that gives them a little bit of breathing room because they're going to take care of, more likely than not, Jacksonville. Now, Tennessee, that's been a team that's given them a run for their money, beat them up pretty good last year. But I could see them. I don't think Tennessee's going to be as good this year. That's one of my things. So I could see them coming off the bye, winning those 2 games. Let's say they come out of that first 7 games 5-2. They win the next 2 after the bye. They're 7-2, and they come into this stretch. You go 2-2, you're 9-4. You're sitting pretty. If they come out of this thing 2-2, anything north of 2-2, again, 3 out of 4 on the road against tough opponents. They come out of this thing anything better than 2-2, I'm giving them the division. If they're already at 7 wins prior to hitting this stretch of football, I'm giving them the division. Right now, I see the Chiefs taking a step back. I feel like the rest of the division is catching up with them. Finally, it's taken them about damn near a decade, it feels like, but I feel like the rest of the division, and really for that matter, the rest of the AFC is catching up with them. And I think they finally get caught this year, but they're not going down without a fight. They're 11-6 are the Kansas City Chiefs this year. It's good enough to get them into the postseason, and that's all they really want. At the end of the day, they just want in. Now, they haven't played very many road games, you know, since Patrick Mahomes has taken over as the starting quarterback. So that'll be something different for them, playing road games. But they just want in. I think they feel like they're battle tested enough to go wherever they need to go to find a way to get to where they ultimately want to be, which is in the Super Bowl in February. But got the Chiefs going 11-6 with this schedule as we transition to the team that finished second in this division last year, and that's the Vegas Raiders. So this is the schedule that I talked about the Chiefs having the toughest schedule in the division, and I don't think it's close, but the Vegas Raiders, and the Chiefs earned that, by the way. They were the best team, not only in the AFC West, they were the best team in the AFC. So they, you know, not record-wise, the Titans held that distinction, but they ultimately hosted the AFC Championship game. The Vegas Raiders earned the second toughest schedule in this division, and it shows. And I think they're going to actually pay the price for that second best schedule in this division. Let's go through their schedule quickly. We'll come back and I'll give you the pockets of football that I think are going to ultimately determine whether the Raiders are a playoff team or not in 2022. At Chargers in week 1, home for the Cardinals in week 2, at the Titans in week 3, home for Denver in week 4, at Kansas City on a Monday night in week number 5. Have a bye week. So a pretty early bye, week 6 for the Vegas Raiders. They come off the bye and they've got some opportunities to get right if they're not already right. You know, home for Houston, at New Orleans, at Jacksonville, home for Indy. Then they hit a stretch of football that I think is just absolutely insane. We'll get into that a little bit later on, but it starts in week 11 at Denver, at Seattle, home for the Chargers, at the Los Angeles Rams on a Thursday night. The following week, they're home for New England on a Sunday night, at the Pittsburgh Steelers the week after that, home for San Francisco, and finish up the season home for the Kansas City Chiefs. So the first pocket of the schedule that I think is going to be imperative for this Vegas team is the first 5 weeks of the season right out of the gate prior to the bye. So you're going to get 3 road games in the first 5 weeks, and 2 of those, and all 3 of 3 of your 5 games, okay, prior to the bye, you're going to play one of each of the teams in this division, okay, 2 of which are going to be on the road. So you're going to have to find a way to navigate your way through. You can't come out of that stretch 0-3 in the division. Hell, you don't even want to come out of that thing 1-2, but at bare minimum 1-2. Okay. If nothing else, at least beat Denver at home, protect the crib. And then you'll get an opportunity at Kansas City at the house later in the season. Same thing with the Chargers, but you must protect your house early in the season, but it's not going to be easy. At the Chargers in week 1, okay, home for the Cardinals in week 2. So you'll get the leftovers of whatever happens with the Chiefs in week 1 in Arizona. You'll get that. in week 2 at your house. Week 3, you're at the Titans. I don't think the Titans are going to be as good as I've mentioned that already, but still, they might be good enough to beat you if you're not playing your best football. And you're home for Denver in week 4 before going to Kansas City on a Monday night before your bye week. So to me, that's a really interesting stretch, because the Raiders are one of those teams. They're not like the Chiefs or even a team like, the Chargers, who I think they have the utmost confidence going into the season this year. Denver's got a quarterback that's been there, done that. You're not in that position. Derek Carr played in his first playoff game last season. Okay. You can't afford to start the season off 1-4. 2-3, you're pushing it, but you can recover from 2-3. That's not a death sentence, right? But 1-4, and you could be done before you even got a chance to get started. And that's very possible looking at this schedule, playing 3 AFC West opponents, 2 of which are on the road in Los Angeles and Kansas City. You could easily lose both of those games. The Broncos are no pushover, home or away. And then Arizona and Tennessee, that's 2 playoff teams right there. In the first 5 weeks of the season, you're playing 3 playoff teams, and the 2 that didn't make it are both AFC West family members that easily could be playoff teams this year. So they're going to be better teams. They're improved rosters. This is a tough start. Point blank, period, end of discussion. You got to find a way to navigate it and come out of that no worse than 2-3. Anything worse than that will be uncivilized, and I'm going to pretty much bury you. But say you come out of that stretch at 2-3 or 3-2 even, right? You come off of that and you got Houston at the crib. That's a winnable football game. At New Orleans, that's going to be interesting, because we don't know what the Saints are going to be. We don't know what Jameis Winston is going to be. That's a revamped offense. They're supposed to get Michael Thomas back. They added Chris Olave. They've added all these weapons. They added Jarvis Landry. That's a much better offensive football team. They probably won't have Alvin Kamara. Maybe they will. I think week 8, he'll be suspended for the first 6 weeks. So I don't think week 8 he'll be absent. So they should have him back by then. That's a very, very losable game if you're not careful at New Orleans. At Jacksonville, you're the only team in the division that actually has to travel to Jacksonville to play the Jaguars. And the only reason I make this a point of emphasis is because every year Jacksonville has an out-of-body experience or 2 at the crib. Last year, it was against Buffalo. Held the Bills to 6 points, beat them 9-6. It was an epic performance. And there's at least one of those in the chamber every year for the Jaguars. And it's not on the road. They never do that on the road. It's only at home. It's sleepy. You go to Jacksonville, stadium's half filled. They're swimming in pools. You're like, this is great. It's 87 degrees. How can we go here and not win? And then you go there, you fall asleep, you wake up in the 4th quarter, and you're fighting for your life. You look like a mark in that game. I'm not saying, I'm just saying. And you're the only one that has to experience this. Denver is supposed to play Jacksonville in Jacksonville. They're playing them in London. You're the only team that has to go to Jacksonville. I can see you losing that game. Anyway, the next stretch of football that I think is going to ultimately decide the fate of this Vegas Raiders team, weeks 11 through 18. So really the back end of your schedule. All right. 8 weeks of football really to determine, are you a playoff team or not? Huge chunk of your schedule. Yes, I know. But even if you're able to navigate the first half, let's say you go 3-2. Let's go with the glass half full approach. You go 3-2 in the first 5. You come out of the bye, you beat Houston, you lose to New Orleans. That puts you at 4-3. You beat Jacksonville, you beat Indy, and now you're 6-4, right? 6-3, excuse me, after the first 3 weeks of football, or 9 weeks of football. 10, week 10, but 9 weeks of football, because you had a bye already. You're 6-3. Now you go into this final stretch of football. Okay. At Denver, at Seattle, home for the Chargers, at the Rams on a Thursday night, home for New England on a Sunday night, at Pittsburgh, home for San Francisco, home for Kansas City. Out of those 8 games there, you're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 playoff teams from a season ago. I don't know what Pittsburgh is going to be with Mitchell Trubisky. So I don't really want to count them as this tough game, but it's on the road, and we know that defense is good enough to stifle the Raiders. But the Raiders went there last year and beat them up. And if their offense isn't any good this year, they were able to do what they needed to do last year in Pittsburgh. We'll see what happens again this year. But Denver, again, on the road at Denver, that's tough. Seattle, anytime you got to travel to Seattle, we all think they're going to be ass, right? But you got to go to Seattle. 12th man gets involved. Maybe it's a little misty there. All of a sudden, you go there, you turn it over 3 times, you end up losing to the Seahawks. You didn't see it coming. It could happen. Chargers at the crib, home, away, it really doesn't matter. The Chargers are going to be tough. Rams at Los Angeles on a Thursday night. Whew, quick turnaround. That's going to be rough after playing the Chargers. And then you get that little bit of a mini bye week, and then you get the New England Patriots on Sunday Night Football. It's at home, but it's still the Patriots, still Bill Belichick, still going to be tough. And then at the Steelers, as I mentioned, home for the 49ers. That's going to be a tough one late in the season. And then home for Kansas City. Home or away, the Chiefs are just a handful for you to take care of. So this schedule is very doable for Vegas, but it's also tough at the same time. I don't have as much confidence in Vegas as some people may. I want to see what all of these different dynamics that they're putting together. I just know the offense is going to be better than it's been, which is a good thing. How good is this defense? They've made vast improvements. They got Chandler Jones on defense now. They've got the guys that can really help turn that thing around and make them a more formidable defense. But I want to see what everything looks like first before I just jump in head first with this Raiders football team. They still have Derek Carr. I like Derek Carr, but I don't love Derek Carr. Never have, but I think Derek Carr is a guy that just doesn't get his just due. He's a really good NFL quarterback. Same vein as Kirk Cousins. A lot of people don't give Kirk Cousins his credit. He's a really good NFL quarterback. I say they're in that same category as Derek Carr and Kirk Cousins. So you can win and win big with those guys, but you have to have the parts around them. We'll see if they have enough. I said all of that to say this. The Raiders have to prove it to me. I feel like last year they went through so much and they overcame it, and the schedule allowed for them to do that. Remember that Thursday night game against the Browns with no Baker Mayfield? How awful of a game was that? But they found a way to win it. Like, they had fortunate bounces like that where they played teams that were going through some things and they were able to take advantage of it late in the season. They had a hell of a win on Thanksgiving against the Cowboys. Like, they found a way to will themselves to the postseason. The division is too good this year to be able to do that. I see them at 9-8 this year. Now the ball bounces their way. And they're as good as I think they can be offensively, and the defense pitches in and does their part. This could easily be 11-6, but I think you're going to get beat a couple of times when you shouldn't get beat. And I think the rest of the division is going to find a way to get you when they're supposed to get you. And I think you ultimately find yourself at 9-8 if you are the Los Vegas Raiders. So now we go to the Chargers in this division. And this is a team last year. I still don't believe in their head coach. Let me start by saying this. And for what it's worth, I think he has a chance to be a really good head coach. And right now, he's on that Doug Peterson track. And if you're a Chargers fan, you want to hear that, because we said the same exact thing about Doug Peterson his first couple of years in the league. I think Doug Peterson's first year coincided with Carson Wentz's first year in the NFL, which is 2016. And I remember that first year they lost like 3 or 4 games because Doug Peterson was over aggressive. He was going for it on 4th down way too much. They weren't converting. They lost some ball games that they could have won if he'd have been just a little bit more conservative. And that was his MO. He's like, we're going to roll the dice. We're going to see if it comes up nice. If it doesn't, it falls on my shoulders, but I'm willing to take that risk. It ultimately paid off in 2017. The Eagles went all the way to the Super Bowl. They ultimately won it. Remember the Philly special? That was a 4th down call. So again, this whole discussion about him being over aggressive, it cost his team a playoff berth last year, but that's his MO. And he's instilled that in his team. That's the one thing. You don't want to send mixed signals to your players. This is who we are. This is who we're always going to be. You know where I stand. I believe in you guys, whether it's the offense. I believe in you converting on 4th down. If you don't, I believe in my defense to get a stop, even if the offense puts you in a really precarious spot. So I think his team understands where he's coming from. And now I think there's an understanding. Look, coach is going to roll the dice. We got to be willing to back him up no matter how it goes. So this is a Chargers team that we've seen. This is the thing that makes me so confident in the Chargers. Not only did they go out and swing for the fences this season, this offseason, they looked at the rest of this division and they said, okay, I see what y'all are doing, and we're ready to push our chips to the center of the table. We know we're not scared. We know what it is. Our quarterback has come of age. We're ready now. We didn't want to do this too soon. We didn't want to push our chips to the center of the table too soon and show our hand and then end up getting, beaten. But now we got what we need. We see where our quarterback is, and now we think we're ready to contend. And this schedule is a we're ready to contend type of schedule. So I'm intrigued by the Los Angeles Chargers, the moves they made in the offseason. They signed J.C. Jackson. They traded for Khalil Mack. They re-upped with Mike Williams. They did all of the little things that they needed to do to put themselves in a position. I love the running back that they drafted out of Texas A&M, Isaiah Spiller. Like, I think they've completed their roster now. They're ready to go out and compete and win big this year. We'll see if they can get it done. It's one thing to talk about. It's another thing to go out and do it. Let's go through this schedule, and I'll give you the pocket of the schedule that I think is going to be tough. Home for the Raiders in week 1, at Kansas City Thursday Night Football. We've talked about that already. Week 2, home for Jacksonville week 3, at Houston week 4, at Cleveland week 5, home for Denver week number 6 on a Monday night, at Seattle, home for Seattle in week number 7. That is prior to their week 8 bye. They come out of the week 8 bye at Atlanta, at San Francisco in week 10 on a Sunday night, home for the Chiefs in week 11, at Arizona in week 12, at the Vegas Raiders in week 13, home for the Miami Dolphins in week 14, home for the Tennessee Titans in week 15, at Indianapolis in week 16, home for the and that Indianapolis Colts game on the road in week 16. That's a Monday Night Football affair. Home for the Los Angeles Rams on a Sunday night in week 17. Don't think that game's getting flexed out of there. And then they finish up the season week 18 at Denver. There could be a lot on the line potentially in that football game. So the part of the schedule that speaks to me with this Chargers football team is the first 7 weeks before the bye. Here's why. That's a really, really soft start to the season. The kind that makes you say, hey, this is your opportunity to jump out of the gates, let everybody else in the division know we're not playing this year, take care of business, and announce yourself to the rest of the league. This is your opportunity to do it. You look at that start to the schedule, and there aren't many playoff teams from a season ago. There are teams that we don't think are going to be all that great this year either. Even the Cleveland game on the road, which was it was one of the most entertaining games aesthetically to watch last season in LA, with those two teams scoring up over 40 points apiece, with the Chargers coming out on top. That was a fun one. That's not what you're going to get in this game right here. I don't even think you're getting Deshaun Watson in that game. There's a real opportunity for Watson to be suspended for the first 6 weeks. I think it's going to be 4. And if it is 4, that'll be his first game back in week number 5. So he might be back for that game. Even if it's his first game back, do you expect him to not be rusty? I just can't see a guy not playing football for pretty much 2 full seasons and just coming back and acting as if he's not rusty. I just think it'll be tough for him to just step back in there and pick up like he's never missed a beat. So I think that even that Cleveland game on the road isn't as tough as it could be, right? That said, you look at this schedule, home for the Raiders, got to take care of business, and they've done a really good job of taking care of the Raiders at home. At Kansas City, they've been as good as anybody on the road at Arrowhead as I've seen in the last decade. Okay, many teams try, most fail going into Arrowhead to win football games. The Chargers seem to know how to go there, tame that crowd, and come out victorious. I wouldn't be shocked if they did it again. Jacksonville at the crib, you got to win that game. Okay, Houston at Houston, got to win that game. Cleveland at Cleveland, I think that's going to be a compromised Browns team. Got to win that football game. If that's Jacoby Brissett, got to take him out. At home for Denver on a Monday night, that's a big one. That's going to be one of those measuring stick games, especially if Denver gets off to a hot start. That's a measuring stick game. Whether Denver gets off to a hot start or not, they're going to be a good team this year. That's going to be a big-time game on a Monday night, big stage. I want to see how the Chargers handle that. And then home for Seattle, got to win that game. So what I'm essentially telling you is, in the first 7 weeks, you can't be any less than 5-2 out of the gates. You're anything less than 5-2, I'm not taking you serious this year. Okay? I've got big plans for the Chargers this season, but I can't take you serious if you can't navigate your first 7 games of the season at 5-2 or better. Like, you can't come out of that stretch 4-3, and I feel good about that. Okay? This isn't a 4-3 stretch to start the season off. You could lose 2 games. You pick the 2. I don't care which two. You would prefer it not to be divisional games, right? But you can't lose to 3 division opponents and call yourself an AFC West competitor. And those are the only 3 games that I see that are losable in this stretch. And you can't lose all 3 of them. You've got to win at least 1, possibly 2 of them. 2 of the 3 in the division, you play each of the teams in the division once through this first 7-game stretch. 2 of the 3 are at home. You got to take care of business at the crib. We make a lot of jokes about, oh, the Chargers don't have home field advantage. F that, okay? Take care of business. You do that, I'm going to look at you as the team that I think you are this season. So you come out of that stretch, and I'm looking at your schedule. You get Atlanta. Kansas City has Tampa Bay. The Raiders have New Orleans on the road. You got Atlanta, man. Like, if you can't take care of Atlanta, like, you know, people always make try to downplay the difference in the schedule. It's only 2. It used to be 2 games. It's only 2 games difference. That's 2 big goddamn games if the division is highly competitive. 2 games could be the difference between somebody coming out of that thing 12-4 or somebody coming out of it 11-5. That's the 2-game difference. Is I played 2 games against opponents that were easier for me to handle, and you split. I swept them. You split against those teams. Now I got the advantage, and I got the 1-game advantage that I need to call myself division champ. Now it's 3 games difference with the 17th game added. That's a big difference between Tampa, New Orleans, and Atlanta. Okay. Anyway, you know, Kansas City has to deal with Buffalo. The Vegas Raiders have to deal with New England. I don't know how good they're going to be. It's still Bill Belichick. It's still that defense. You get Miami. I don't know what the Dolphins are going to be. That's a winnable game at the crib, though. So I said all of that to say this. Your schedule is set up for you to get off to a fast start. I think that's important for a team that hasn't made it to the playoffs in 3 years, 3 or 4 years. I think it might even be 4 years now, since the last time you tasted some playoff ball. So I think it's imperative that you get off to a fast start. You're not allowed, at least even Vegas. I don't trust the Vegas Raiders, but at least they played in the playoffs last year, and they feel like they're even better because of the moves they made in the offseason. You don't have that pedigree. So you need to get off to a fast start. You need to see success so that it builds confidence, and now you feel like you're world beaters and you can take on anybody. You can go anywhere and win. I think you have an opportunity. The schedule makers did you a huge favor. They're giving you an opportunity. You have to take it if you are the Chargers. That, to me, that's the stretch of football. That's going to tell me what I need to know about this Chargers football team. Is you have to beat the teams that you're supposed to beat, because your schedule is littered with teams that you can handle. Okay. Obviously, the division games are going to count, and they're going to be massive. If you want to call yourself division champs, if you want to make the playoffs, you're going to have to take care of the division. You're going to have to go at bare minimum 4-2 in the division. You can't find yourself. I've always said, if you're not over 500, you don't deserve to call yourself a division champ. So you're going to have to take care of business in the division. I don't think you're going to have a problem doing that. You usually split with Kansas City. You're good for at least 1 against the Raiders, and you've had success against the Broncos, but even every now and again you split with them. I remember 2 years ago, a heartbreaking loss against the Denver Broncos, and when they came back and beat you when you had a big lead. But it's time for you to take that next step. If you want teams to take you serious, it's time for you to take that next step. 4-2 or better in the division. I've got this Chargers team, because of this schedule, I got them 12-5. I got them 12-5. This is a 12-5 schedule for the Chargers, and Justin Herbert looks like he's ready. All right, and their head coach, we made a lot about what he did last year. I think they're ready to embrace his style of coaching. They know what they're getting themselves into now. There's no excuses. And I love what Tom Telesco did this offseason. He's going for it. He's going for it. And I think they're ready to go for it. So we'll see. And then we go to the Denver Broncos. And this is a team that I think is a chic pick right now to do some damage in the AFC. I'm not going to lie. In my mind, if this defense is as good as I think they can be, I'm not worried about the offense. I know this offense is going to be good and dynamic, and they're going to score a bunch of points. I'm not worried about the offense. And it's weird saying that, talking about a Denver Broncos team that has struggled offensively because of the quarterback position since Peyton Manning, and not the Peyton Manning we saw ride out on the white horse after the 2015 Super Bowl win, because he was terrible. I'm talking about 2014 was the last time this Broncos offense was potent and actually putting up big time numbers, they haven't seen the ability to do what they're going to do this year since 2014. So I'm not worried about offense. I'm worried about defense. And honestly, they got all the pieces that they need. I think the kid, Nick Benito, that they drafted out of Oklahoma, he looks like the perfect Denver Bronco. Like, the only problem is I don't know if I trust the defensive coordinator and all of the changes that have been made. If you told me this was Vic Fangio, I know he's going to get the most out of the defense. I can't say the same for the offense if Vic Fangio is still your head coach, but I know the defense is going to be buzzing. I need to see that. If the Denver Broncos defensively are out here kicking ass and they can stay healthy, that's huge. Bradley Chubb needs to stay healthy, right? He stays healthy, and you added in the edge rusher from Dallas. And then, like I said, you got some depth now with Nick Benito, who I think is going to be a stud for you, potentially in a steal. And then we know the secondary is loaded. That defense has what it needs to really be problematic for the rest of not just the AFC West, but the AFC Conference. So I'm excited about the Broncos. I actually think they're going to win the Super Bowl this year, but they gotta navigate this schedule and their division first. But iron sharpens iron, right? That's why this division, if you told me all four of these teams made the playoffs, because, with this new 7-team format, 4 teams, an entire division, we haven't seen it yet, but an entire division can make the playoffs. We haven't seen it yet, but it could happen. If you told me that a team from this division or 2 teams from this division represented them in the AFC Championship game, I wouldn't bat an eye. If you told me the AFC representative for the Super Bowl came out of this division, again, I wouldn't even blink. I would just shrug my shoulders like, okay, and that's how good this division is. So here's Denver's schedule, and then I'll give you what I think is the most important part of their schedule. So at Seattle to kick off the season, we already know what that is. Schedule makers didn't even wait. Right out of the gate, gave us Russ going back to his stomping grounds on a Monday night. He's going to get a rousing ovation to start off, and then they're going to boo him the rest of the game, more likely than not, and he's going to kick their ass. So right out of the gates, Monday Night Football, Russ returns to Seattle. Week 2, Houston at the crib. Week 3, San Francisco at the crib, this time on Sunday Night Football. So much like Kansas City, you're getting a ton of action. This is the NFL tells you what they think of your team and your roster and your chances of being good by how many times they put you on primetime television. And when they put you on this many times this early in the season, it tells everyone else around the league, we think they're going to be really good. So home for the San Francisco 49ers on a Sunday night in week 3, at the Vegas Raiders in week 4, home for Indianapolis on a Thursday night. So a quick turnaround after the Raiders game, and you're going back home, Thursday Night Football, Indianapolis Colts. The following week, so you get that little bit of a bye week, that mini bye, and you come off of that, and you get an extra day of rest on top of the rest you already had, and you're traveling to the Chargers for a Monday night showdown. So advantage Broncos, even though it's a road game, advantage Broncos, tons of rest, extra day to prepare, on top of the extra time that they already had to prepare and lick their wounds. That's on a Monday night. That should be fun. Home for the Jets in week number 7 at Jacksonville, but that game is in London before they hit their week 9 bye week. So in their first 6 games, they are on television, primetime, that is, 4 times in the first 6 weeks. If that's not the NFL telling you, we think Denver's going to be really good with Russell Wilson, and we think they're going to be must-see TV offensively. We think they can light the scoreboard up. They're not putting defensive-minded teams on television 4 times in the first 6 weeks of the season. That's not what they're doing. Okay, nobody wants to see 16-13. I mean, I would enjoy that, but most people don't enjoy 16-13. Most people want to see 38-35. Most people want to see 40-36. They think that Denver is going to be able to produce those types of numbers. Don't know if they're giving it up on the other end, but they think Denver's going to be able to run up the scoreboard. So you come off the bye at Tennessee, week number 10, home for the Vegas Raiders in week number 11, at Carolina week 12, at Baltimore week 13, home for Kansas City on a Sunday night in week number 14. Okay, that's your fifth and final. After 4 in the first 6 weeks, your fifth and final primetime game comes in week 14. Home for Arizona week 15, at the Rams in week 16, at Kansas City in week 17, home for the Chargers in week 18. So I've got 2 pockets of the schedule here for the Broncos that I think are going to be instrumental in really looking at how the Broncos are able to either succeed or fall flat on their face in 2022. The first 8 weeks of the season prior to the bye, obviously, you look at that schedule. It's a doable schedule, similar to the Chargers. I feel like you have to come out of this stretch of football no worse than 5-3. But really, if I think you're Super Bowl contenders, I need you to be 6-2 or better coming out of this stretch, because Seattle on the road, that's a win. Houston at home, that's a win. These are non-playoff teams from a season ago. San Francisco at home, going to be tough. It's on Sunday night, but you should beat them, okay? Don't know what they're going to be. Don't know what Trey Lance is going to be. That's going to be interesting. I still think you should take care of business there. All right, Raiders on the road, you could lose that game, okay? And if you do, cool. It happens. It's family business. It's on the road. We'll see. Quick turnaround the following week. You get Indy at the crib on a Thursday night. I need you to take care of business there, okay? The Chargers the following week, that's going to be tough. It's in the division. You can go there and win. You got plenty of time to prepare for them. Maybe you take care of business. Maybe you don't. Okay. That could be your second loss. I don't want you losing too many games in the division, because you could lose to Vegas. You could lose to the Chargers. Both of them are road games. So you see where this is going. You play 2 games in that 8-game stretch in the division, both on the road. So you're going to get some home cooking on the road later in the season. But after that Jets game, we get a couple of layups again. Home for the Jets. Again, we don't know how good the Jets are going to be, but I don't care how good the Jets are. Take care of business at the crib. And then at Jacksonville, over across the pond in London. So you can, out of these first 8 games, 6 of your opponents, non-playoff teams from a season ago. Now, again, I don't count the Chargers and I don't count Indy, because those 2 teams were literally 1 game from postseason contention. They're both dangerous in their own ways. So I don't count them as non-playoff teams, but they're non-playoff teams. But the other 4 teams that are non-playoff teams are legit non-playoff teams that we don't know are going to be any good. We think most of them are going to stink. Seattle, going to stink. Houston, probably going to stink. They're going to be much more competitive than they were last year, but still not good enough to beat you. Jets, probably going to be a lot more competitive than they were last year. Still shouldn't be good enough to beat you. In Jacksonville, again, much more competitive than they were last year. Still shouldn't be good enough to beat you. And then you got to take care of San Francisco at the crib. And again, Indy on a Thursday night, quick turnaround. You got to find a way to get that done. Whether you take care of the Chargers and the Raiders on the road is up to you. Okay, you split that, you're 7-1 if you take care of the rest of those games. That's what I'm talking about. All right. You want to win this division? Go 7-1. You want me to look at you and say, hey, you're right around where I think you should be? Go 6-2. And 6-2 is a great start. It's a great start. But if you want me to think you're going to win this division, go 7-1. Go 8-0. Because it's possible with that start. It's a very doable start to the schedule, similar to the Chargers. All right. So my second pocket of the schedule that I look at, weeks 13 all the way to the final game of the season, week 18. So weeks 13 through 18, there's 2 pockets of the schedule. I gave you the first pocket. Baltimore kicks off this start of this tough stretch. At Baltimore in week 13, home for Kansas City on a Sunday night. Okay. Not going to be easy by any stretch of the imagination. I don't have to tell you that. Home for Arizona, again, not going to be an easy ball game. At the Super Bowl defending champion Los Angeles Rams, ouch. At Kansas City, double ouch, ouch. And then home for the Chargers to finish up. Yikes. Okay. Zoinks! Scoob! Okay. So in that stretch, you're looking at teams that we all think can be playoff teams. And you're playing one of them twice. Kansas City twice in that stretch. Okay. So this is a tough stretch. We think Baltimore is going to bounce back this year. They're going to be much healthier. Lamar Jackson's in a contract year. We think that they're going to be really good this year, or at least a lot of people do. I can't say. There's a lot of comments out there, a lot of rumblings and grumblings about Lamar Jackson and where he is. We've had discussions. People have talked about him not being a top 10 quarterback on some of these lists, this, that, and the third. He's got an axe to grind. He's got something to prove. It's going to be a tough game on the road at Baltimore. And Baltimore's been one of those defenses that has given Russell Wilson a little bit of trouble throughout his career. But then again, we can say that about Baltimore and a lot of quarterbacks in the league. Kansas City, I don't need to tell you that's family business. That's going to be tough, whether it's home or away. It's home, but it's going to be tough. Arizona, again, going to be tough. We'll see what you do there. Rams, on the road. Yikes. Chiefs on the road. Okay, you just played them 3 weeks ago. You're getting them again twice in a month span. Got to find a way to at least split there. You hate to get swept in that scenario. And then Chargers again, okay, for the second and final time on the season. This is a doable schedule. Similar to what I talked about with the Chargers. You're getting the short end. You're getting the long end of the stick, rather. The Chiefs and the Raiders are getting the shorter end of the stick. They earned it though. When you win and you finish, second in your division, you finish first in your division, you're going to get the tougher games on the schedule. The Broncos are going to get the Jets. They're not getting New England. They're not getting the Buffalo Bills. They're getting the Jets. Okay. They're not getting Tampa Bay on the road like Kansas City is, or they're not getting New Orleans on the road like the Raiders are. They're getting the Carolina Panthers in Carolina. Who gives a shit? Home, away, on the moon, in London, in Mexico. It's Panthers. They should win that game. So you're getting opportunities to strengthen your case to win this division and make some noise in the postseason. I said all of that to say this. I think the Denver Broncos fall short of winning the division, but they're going to make the playoffs, and I think they're going to do damage when they get there. I got the Broncos at 11-6, and I got the Chargers winning the division at 12-5. I got the Chiefs and the Broncos finishing up at 11-6 apiece. The Chiefs ultimately have a better divisional mark than the Broncos, so they finished second. The Broncos finished third, but again, 3 out of the 4 teams in this division are making the playoffs, and they're going to do damage when they get there. I wouldn't be shocked if 2 of these teams ended up seeing each other in the playoffs. This is going to be a division worth watching all season long. Get your popcorn ready, because this one is going to be highly entertaining, to say the least. So that is my gem dropping session. Now, I want to hear from you guys. What do you think is going to take place in the AFC West? What a division this is going to be. Can't wait to watch this thing unfold throughout the course of the season. And so let's get to your comments and transition to social media maneuvers. I'm a midday marauder, or in this case, I'm a midnight marauder. Y'all know what it is. Let's get to the comment section. You guys who are veterans of the show know exactly how this works. For those of you who do not, use the hashtag LouieTLive to have your comment read on the air. I'll get to as many of them as I can, time permitting. But if you want to jump to the front of the line, if you want to ensure that your comment is read, super chats are the way to do that. Those come first, and then we get to the hashtag comments thereafter. So let's get to some of the super chats, and then we'll get to some of these hashtags, and then we will finish up the show with garbage time. So the first super chat of the night belongs to Nick Caps. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy Nick Caps writes, how or what service would you suggest so that I can watch the Commanders on TV here in North Carolina? I don't know who has the NFL Sunday ticket package. I would assume, well, it's been DirecTV for the last, decade plus, but I know that the NFL is shopping that around. I don't know if that would take place this year, if they found a new bidder or, someone that is taking over the package, and that would start this year. I don't know if the contract is up with DirecTV and Sunday Ticket, or if that's like next year. Whatever the case, your best bet is Sunday Ticket if you want to just pay and not have to worry about it. Now, it is pricey, and I'm pretty sure you can hit people up in the comment section and they'll tell you some illegal way that you can watch all these games and not pay a single dime. Now, you're probably going to have a whole bunch of, spam and shit that you got to get rid of or something like that. But I'm pretty sure there's other ways. If you've got a Fire Stick, you probably got ways that you can watch these games and not have to worry about anything. But there's ways. Again, I don't have to worry about it. I live in the area where, I get Washington games on TV every single week. I have Sunday Ticket, or have access to it. So I don't have to worry about that. So at the end of the day, I have access to everything that I need, but you're probably asking the wrong person, because I don't have to go through back channels or do anything illegal. And I'm not against doing anything illegal. You do what you got to do. You do what's within your budget to get what you want. And there are ways in today's, in 2022, in today's society, there are ways to watch whatever you want for free. You got to know where to go. I'm not the guy to ask. I'm going to be honest with you. Okay. I don't have to do anything. I don't have to pay for anything. Everything that I need is right in front of me. So I'm good. So I would implore you to ask others in the comment section. I'm pretty sure they would be able to give you all the information that you need. I'm sorry if that wasn't helpful, but that's the best I can do for you. Thank you for the super chat, Nick Caps. Metaphor, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy Metaphor writes, Gray Man legit. Watch Terminal List on Amazon Prime. Terminal List. I'm going to write that down. Terminal List. I think I saw that movie. Shucks, I forgot who was in it. And I think I actually watched the preview, and I don't know if I was necessarily sold on the preview of that movie or not, but kind of fits the criteria. So I may check it out. That was one of those, if we don't have anything else to watch, maybe we'll come back to that. I think that was the movie that I see. They were really pushing Terminal List. So I definitely have heard of it before. Thank you for that super chat, Metaphor. Got another super chat here from John Graves III. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy JG3 writes, and thank you for being a member of the MOBB, writes, out of area fans can use a VPN to change your location to DC and watch Commanders on NFL Network. So there you go. I don't even know what that means, but again, this is the kind of intel you'll get if you just throw the questions out there. People will give you the answers you're looking for, and you can figure out which one best suits you. There are so many options out there. Again, don't limit yourself to just one. Figure out which one. Do the work before the season starts so that you're in a position where you're not scrambling come week one. There are going to be multiple options available to you. Figure out which one suits you best and go with that one. So there's an option there that JG3 just threw out to you. Change your VPN location to DC, and it'll allow you to watch the Commanders on NFL Network. So we'll see. Check and see if that works. Hopefully that is all you need right there, and then you keep it pushing. Thank you for that super chat, JG3, and thank you for giving him a little bit of help there. Jason Rogers, Uncle Jay, what's going on with you, man? Seems like it's been a little bit. Always good to hear from you. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, if that's your type of movie, then you will love all of the John Wick movies. I've seen all of them. Of course, I'm a badass guy. Of course, I love John Wick. And I think they're working on a fourth John Wick movie. I think that should be hitting the theaters not too long. I think it should be hitting the movie theaters here shortly. I thought I saw a preview for it not too long ago. So yeah, I've seen all of those. Also, Ross is out after season-ending foot surgery. I talked about that already. Justin Ross, the Kansas City Chiefs undrafted rookie out of Clemson that they were really high on and felt like they could have, potentially be getting a steal. I didn't know what he had actually injured. I just saw that he was out for the season. That's not good, but we'll see what happens. I mean, they were hoping that young kid provided them with a spark, but they weren't counting on him. They've got enough stuff that they've put together, whether it be MVS, Juju Smith-Schuster, Sky Moore. They've put together a nice little conglomerate. They still got, all those receivers that were already there, including Mecole Hardman. They feel like they're absolutely fine as is. So they would have loved to have seen if Ross could make the roster and maybe have an impact, but they're not hurting. That's for sure. Let's see. Thank you for that super chat. I think that was the last one. Got one here. Never mind. From my guy, John Perez, my guy, JP, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. JP writes, Lou, I'm picking the Broncos not only to win the AFC, they're also my pick to win it all. I'm not picking them to win the division, but I am picking them to win it all as well. I think, and I'm not even a win it all type of guy to make that prediction. I generally don't do that. But my theory has been and it remains, and I've said this all off season, that the last two Super Bowl winners have been teams that have changed quarterbacks, have gotten themselves a future Hall of Famer at the quarterback position, via a trade, or in the case of the Buccaneers, free agency, and their teams were ready to go already when that quarterback got there. He was the missing piece, and they hit the ground running and won a Super Bowl. Tampa Bay did it in 2020. The Rams did it last year. I think the Broncos are next up in line in 2022. So I think they're going to win the AFC, the conference, and I think they're going to ultimately win the Super Bowl. There's a little streak now with the NFC. They've won 2 in a row. So the AFC is looking to knock them off and in that streak. NFC is looking to keep that streak going and make it 3 in a row. We'll see if they can do that. But the Broncos look poised. If they can stay healthy, if that defense is as good as advertised, we know what the offense is going to be with Russell Wilson pulling the strings. They've got a chance, man. I like them. I like them a lot. We'll see what happens. I can tell you this: do not count Kansas City out. Okay, they've represented the AFC in the championship game the last 5 years, I believe. It goes all the way back to Mahomes' first year as a starter, which was 18, 19, 20, 21. So 4 years in a row, they've been in the AFC championship game, and they've won 2 of them, lost 2 of them, and I wouldn't count them out. They've been resourceful. They've been resilient, and I thought last year was good for them just from the standpoint of them finding out, because what we've seen in sports, boxing is a great example of this. You watch MMA, you probably see it there too. But guys that are dominant, that have never been hit before, they take one on the chin and they go all Roy Jones Jr. on us. Glass chin, falling all over the place, like can't contain themselves, and they're not the same dude. When adversity hits, they just can't handle it. Not used to it. And I thought the Chiefs actually handled themselves well. They were sputtering at one point last year, and they figured it out. They found a way to win. It wasn't always pretty, but they found a way to get it done. And next thing you know, they got themselves where they needed to be, positioned themselves to host the AFC Championship game again, had a chance to get back to the Super Bowl. They blew it, but they showed me that they ain't no bitch last year, because it's easy to be a front runner. When shit's going well, it's so easy to jump on the bandwagon and good times are rolling. It's easy to just play good, comfortable, easy football when everyone's afraid of you and you're scoring all these points and you can do no wrong. Shit hit the fan last year. Teams started to defend them. They were turning it over. Mahomes was finally getting pressured. You saw them trying to figure it out, but it took a little while, but they figured it out. So I saw some resilience from them last year that I think is going to really benefit them this year when the division is much, much tougher. And they had to fight for the division last year. It did not come easy last season. So I would not sleep on the Chiefs, and neither, all of these teams, even Vegas, who I don't think is going to factor into the division as much, don't sleep on the Vegas Raiders. I mean, their offense has a chance to be as good as it gets. Again, it's only as good as Derek Carr plays. And we know that you can get really good Derek, or you can get some subpar, mid Derek Carr. With the weapons that they now have in Devontae Adams and Hunter Renfrow, and of course, the tight end position being what it is, they're a dangerous offense. They're a really dangerous offense. So I still want to see what this defense looks like. They were much improved defensively last year, but still weren't good enough. I want to see what it looks like, and I think they're even better defensively this year. So again, I'm interested in Vegas, but I just don't think they have enough. When Derek Carr is your quarterback, and that's only good for 4th in your division, that's a tough, bitter pill to swallow, but that's the reality of the situation. So anyway, I digress. All right, that was the last super chat. Let's get to some of the hashtags and see if you guys have any comments on this division and what you think is going to happen. HHC Lunar writes, I like Derek Carr, but we got to stop with this Hall of Fame talk. Who's uttering those words in Derek Carr's name in the same sentence? I haven't heard any of that. He says, why don't we just put anyone who has a good season in at that point? I haven't heard that. I don't know who's saying that, but he's not a Hall of Fame player, not even close to a Hall of Fame player. We just said that Matthew Stafford, who has Hall of Fame numbers already, he was already in the top 10 in just about every passing statistical category, and will end up probably in the top 5 of most of those categories when he's all said and done. He was on the fringe until he won the Super Bowl. Now he's a Hall of Fame quarterback. Derek Carr's not even close to that. Like, Carr's cool, but no one's putting him in the Hall of Fame. Man hasn't even won a playoff game. He just played in his first playoff game last season. So we're not going to crown him. And I haven't heard anybody doing that. So that's interesting, but I don't think that's important right now. HHC Lunar also says, I like Cortland Sutton, but Jeudy has shown nothing yet in his NFL career, and it's not just because of his QBs. He's had some issues with drops. He's had some injuries, but when he's healthy, Jerry Jeudy is a problem. And I think the beauty of the Denver Broncos and what they pose offensively is that they just have so many weapons. They come at you in waves. There's Cortland Sutton. There's Tim Patrick. There's Jerry Jeudy. There's he's coming off of an injury, but there's still the Penn State wide receiver as well. Obviously, they traded away Noah Fant, but there's still Albert O. And then if I'm not mistaken, they drafted another tight end that's going to come in and replenish that cupboard, and they're going to be just fine at tight end. I absolutely love Javonte Williams. He looks like he's got stud written all over him after a very impressive rookie season. They got Melvin Good in the third to come back as his backup running back. They're loaded everywhere, loaded and armed for bear, and they're ready to unload on the rest of not only the division, but the AFC as a whole. So, I mean, you can sit there and talk about Jerry Jeudy. He hasn't been great, okay? He hasn't been great, but there's been injuries. There's been drops. Obviously, I think this kid is super talented, and now he's going to have an opportunity to explode. So we'll see what happens. If they could just stay healthy offensively, they've got quite a hell of a group. KJ Hamler is the other receiver. They're loaded in Denver. So we'll see what happens. Let's see. Nick Riley, my guy, Nick at Night. Thank you for the comment. And I had an axe to grind with my guy Nick. Nick was talking crazy about Carson Wentz, talking about it's clear that Jalen Hurts is better than Carson Wentz. I don't know what you on over there, Nick, but I'm surprised at you. You know better. You know better. You know better. Anyway, he says the only team in this division that took a step back was the Chiefs. I think the Chargers win the division this year, as do I. I got the Chargers winning this division. I think their schedule is what, and Justin Herbert, the combination of what they did this offseason, them going for it, Justin Herbert's progression, and the fact that their schedule is soft enough, just soft enough, I think they're in a position to win the division. I don't think the Chiefs took a step back. They got younger at the safety position. We'll see if that Tyrann Mathieu decision backfires or not, but they got Justin Reed, who's a younger, more, at this point of his career, more spry safety. But there was so much more that Tyrann Mathieu brought to the table than just athleticism and the ability to play. But we'll see about that. Obviously, offensively, you lose Tyreek Hill. That's a big effing deal. I think it may actually turn out to be beneficial for them because there were so many times where if they could take away Tyreek Hill, if you gave me an option to choose which poison you were going to kill me with, I'd much rather take the slow death of Travis Kelce because maybe, just maybe, somebody will come and save me if I hang on long enough. The fast, quick death of Tyreek Hill will get you beat and get you beat bad. But Travis Kelce having 12 catches for 122 yards and 2 touchdowns, you can still survive that. So that's death by 100 cuts. 1,000 cuts. I would much rather go that route than the Tyreek Hill route. Well, now I always felt like the Chiefs were at their greatest, their highest peaks of power were when they had another option after Tyreek Hill, that third option, when they had Samuel Watkins in 18 and in 19. I thought that's when they were at their highest powers. They're going to have weapons. And when you got a Mahomes at quarterback who elevates the rest of the players around him, like Brown, like Pringle and all of those guys that he's been throwing to, I feel like he's going to do wonders with Juju Smith-Schuster and MVS and, Sky Moore. And then you still have Travis Kelce. You still got Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I love that they brought back Jerick McKinnon. I think he's a phenomenal receiving back out of the backfield. They have weapons, okay? I even think Noah Gray is going to ultimately be better for them in the future at the tight end position as a backup. So I don't think the Chiefs necessarily took a step back. I think that's the perception. They could actually be more dangerous because there are more weapons, legitimate weapons for Patrick Mahomes to get the football to. None of them are Tyreek Hill. I will grant you that, okay? But collectively, they may exceed Tyreek Hill. Okay, Juju Smith-Schuster is no slouch. Marquez Valdez-Scantling is exactly what the Chiefs need, a deep threat that can take the top off the defense. He can run just like Tyreek Hill can. Is he Tyreek Hill? No, but guess what? He can stretch the football field vertically, and he's one of those guys that is going to take a lot to overthrow him, right? So you get that speed. Mecole Hardman's still there. Okay, don't forget about him. Easy too, but don't. And again, Sky Moore, a rookie, come in. He can be dangerous too. And he's an afterthought. So I think you add all of those parts up, and I think the sum of those parts is greater to, if not equal to, greater than that of Tyreek Hill. So I don't think they took a step back, honestly. But, we'll see. That is the prevailing thought. A lot of people, they lost Tyreek Hill. They're not the same team. You're right. They're not the same team. They may be even better. We'll see. Got a super chat, though. So I'm going to go ahead and take that real quick. But me and you agree on one thing. I got the Chargers winning that division, as do you. Door Gunner, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy Door Gunner writes, Chargers always seem to have a good team, but they always underperform. I think Kansas City finds a way to win the division again. And you're right. The Chargers seem to always have a good roster, but this isn't a good Los Angeles Chargers roster. This is a great roster. With the addition to that roster, first of all, you got a healthy. When's the last time we went into an offseason, into an offseason where we're not talking about Derwin James having to rehab something? You got a healthy Derwin James, okay? So that's a huge plus for them because he was coming off of an injury last year, and he was coming off an injury the year before that. So when you're getting a healthy Derwin James going into a contract season, he's going to get broken off here shortly. So there's that. You had a rookie in Asante Samuel Jr. last year playing really good football. Now you're adding a guy in J.C. Jackson opposite of him. So there's that. You got Joey Bosa, who's a stud. You're adding Khalil Mack across from him. So there's that, right? And so you're infusing this defense with all these studs. Remember who their head coach is. He's maniacal when you give him defensive talent. Say what you want about him as a head coach and being over aggressive. Okay. This is a man that took that Rams defense and had them number one in the league, and it wasn't even close his last year in LA before taking the job as the Chargers head coach. He knows how to coach up defense when he gets the pieces that he needs. I think he's got the pieces now that he needs. That defense could be lights out this season. So, I'm interested to see what they look like defensively. I know they've got what it takes offensively. I still felt like they could have done one more thing at receiver. I would have loved it if they would have added a credible third option, because I still feel like the tight end position, they did add a tight end this offseason. And he's a guy that hasn't hit his ceiling yet, but I don't know if he ever will. He's one of those potential guys. He was with the Rams. He signed a 1-year contract with Seattle last year. I liked him a lot. I can't think of his name, but he's Gerald Everett. That's his name, Gerald Everett. They signed Gerald Everett to play tight end for them. We'll see how that goes. I don't love it. I don't hate it either. Okay. I don't love that they don't have a real third option. They got like third option at the receiver position by committee. But I think this is the year that they start looking for something out of Palmer, the receiver that they drafted out of Tennessee a couple of years ago. So he'll be interesting and see if they can get something out of Palmer this year. They got a bunch of guys that can run. Guyton is a guy that can run, and he'll take the top off of a defense. They got a bunch of dudes that you put them together collectively, and they give you a third option. But I would love it if they just had like how the Bengals, for instance. That's another young team with a ton of dynamic weapons. I would love it if they just could say, hey, we got Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins, and Jamar Chase. What you gonna do? I would love it if they could say, we got Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, and fill in the blank. What you gonna do? They're hoping that Palmer is that guy for them. I don't know if he is or not. But I feel like they need that third option for Justin Herbert. But Herbert has shown the ability. He really doesn't care who the hell is out there. He's going to find a way to get it done. So we'll see, man. We'll see. Anyway, thank you for that super chat. I totally get where you're coming from, Door Gunner. But this roster feels different this year. Feels different. Let's see. See where I left off on the hashtags. I think I'm right here. I think the last one I read was my guy, Nick. Right here. So Rich writes, I said it before and I'll say it again. I got the Chiefs being last in this division. Everyone else is going to be better while the Chiefs clearly got worse. Clearly, that's where I struggle. Clearly got worse. How did they clearly get worse? This is the prevailing thought. You're not alone in this thinking, but how did they clearly get worse? He says everyone else added a nice edge rusher. So we'll see. I think y'all are really making a mistake by downplaying the Kansas City Chiefs. Let's see. Rich says, yes, I loved Hustle, the cast, the plot, everything, true vision of never giving up and fighting through adversity. Yeah, it was everything. I like you said, the plot, everything, the cast, everything. They did a really good job in that movie. It was well done. Makes me want to go watch the other Adam Sandler movie with Kevin Garnett where it was about betting and gambling and things of that nature. I haven't watched that one yet. It was on my list. This makes me want to go watch that. Rich says, you saw the Jarrett's video. He wants to stream and he wants smoke. Protect Sadio Mod. I haven't seen the video. I don't know. I think we're talking about the same person, but he's been screaming he wants to smoke for a long time. I was on Protect's show. Protect opened the lines up. He had a chance. He's in the comment section, but he doesn't call in. He doesn't say anything. So I don't know. People say that. They really don't want it though. Let's see. Let's see. I think Rich says, what are you looking for from us going into training camp? Any sleepers that will emerge? Mine are Kelvin Harmon, Farrod Gardner, Channing Stribling. I think they'll be good in camp. I've given up on Kelvin Harmon. Barring any kind of catastrophes, I don't like to put that in the atmosphere, but barring any kind of catastrophe, his time's come and gone as a receiver. He might end up being on the practice squad if, break in case of an emergency, but I think even Dax Milne comes before him. We go 6 deep and Milne is on the outside looking in because they ultimately decide to keep Alex Erickson to return kicks and punts. Kelvin Harmon's nowhere to be found, I don't think. So I've given up on him. Farrod Gardner is interesting. Ron Rivera went out of his way to bring him up. I've talked about that already. So he's a guy worth noting. And Channing Stribling plays a position that frankly is wide open, which is why they signed him in the first place. I don't love the depth at corner. I think there is at least one, if not two, roster spots available back end of the roster, depending on whether they keep 5 or 6 corners. I think they're going to keep 5. And so I think there is one spot available back there at the end of that cornerback depth chart. So I think corner is definitely something to keep an eye on. And a guy like Channing Stribling, or even the 7th round pick, out of Oak State, is another guy to keep an eye on. And because they have to, I think, keep a 5th corner. That's not optional, and Troy Apke doesn't count. So technically speaking, they'll keep 6 corners, right? Because Apke will be one of those guys, but you don't want to put him on the field. So it'll be interesting to see what they decide to do. I think I got another super chat. And I do. This one is from Door Gunner. Double up. Thank you for doubling up, Door Gunner. Greatly appreciate you. My guy Door Gunner writes, KC's coaching is the best in the division. Yeah, I don't think that's debatable right now. Obviously, Denver's got a brand new head coach this year. The Chargers coach actually single-handedly cost them an opportunity to play in the playoffs last year, so he needs to redeem himself. Vegas has a brand new head coach. This is his 2nd stint as a head coach in the NFL. I don't love him, but the man's good on offense. That I can say that. I don't know. And these Patriots, these ex-Patriot coaches seem to struggle with the leadership, personable piece, where they want to come in, rule with an iron fist like Belichick did, but they don't have the hardware that Belichick has to get people to buy in. And if that's not followed up by winning, then it's really going to, not bode well for him. And I just, every time I think of Josh McDaniels in Vegas, I think about the I Am Legend episode where they talked about, they had the linebacker. I forget his name. He went to the U and he played for the Broncos in the mid 2000s, like 2005, 2006, when Josh McDaniels was their head coach. And remember, they got off to that hot start. They started off the season like 4 or 5-0. And he was like, yo, we were winning. And I was like, yo, we not that good though. Like, why are we winning all these games? And he was like, they were smelling themselves because, they were winning, and then he said the league cracked down on them for cheating. And after that, he's like, yo, we didn't win like another game the rest of the season. So it was DJ Williams. That's his name, DJ Williams. And so I just think about that. Like, I don't buy Josh McDaniels. I buy him as an offensive mind. I don't buy him as a leader of men. So I think it's Andy Reid head and shoulders above the rest of the field. And I don't even know who's second in that conversation. I guess you have to go with the Chargers coach. I don't know why I can't think of his name. I can see his damn face. I don't know why I can't think of his name, but I guess you have to go with him out of the fact that the other two are brand new coaches in the division. But it's Andy Reid. Clearly, it's not even close. So I think that is something that you have to take into consideration. Absolutely. Coaching does matter in this league. Brandon Staley. Thank you, Clutch B-Ball TV. Brandon Staley is his name. I don't know why I always forget Brandon Staley's name. And Uncut Gems. Once again, Clutch B-Ball TV. Thank you for that. Uncut Gems is that Adam Sandler movie with Kevin Garnett and the gambling and all of that stuff that I haven't watched yet. And I think ultimately I will watch that movie at some point. All right. Let's see. I may take a couple more hashtags and then we'll move on to the final segment of the show. Before I do that, I want to talk to Washington fans real quick. Tomorrow, I'm gonna do a live stream tomorrow night. It's gonna be called Toast to the Season, and what we're gonna do: get your alcoholic beverage or your beverage of choice. Milk is not allowed, as we always say on these streams, but you can bring anything: water, soda, juice, Condo P, if you want to bring your sparkling, cherry water, whatever you want to do, it's up to you. But I'm going to bring my wine. If you got the time, I'm bringing the wine. You know what it is. We're going to toast to health, wealth, and winning big in the upcoming season. It's the day before training camp. We're going to talk about a number of topics. We're still going to go live Thursday night, as that will be the first day of camp officially. So the 27th is where they arrive. They'll do their conditioning test and all of that. The actual first practice will be the 28th. So there will be a little bit to chew on that night. So we will go live on that night as well. But and I will be live on Wednesday night with Rio and with Ed and with Rico. So that will be over on Rio's channel. Check that out. I'll be putting up a couple of posts to let you guys know where you need to meet us at 9 o'clock on Wednesday night. That should be a lot of fun, and we should have a lot of topics to discuss. So this is going to be a jam-packed week full of content all over with these Washington content creators. So keep your eyes peeled, ears to the street, to make sure you don't miss a single thing. But tomorrow night, I'm definitely popping a bottle, pouring it up, and we're going to toast to success. I think this is a chance for us to have a big season. Again, got to stay healthy, got to get a big season out of Carson Wentz. Defense has to step up. I have no idea what we're getting out of the defense. That is, to me, the biggest anomaly, similar to the Broncos. Like, they got the pieces right, but I'm not sure what we're going to get out of their defense. I know the Broncos offense is going to be good. I can't say the same for Washington because Carson Wentz is not Russell Wilson. I know they're getting a Hall of Fame quarterback that is coming off of a season that a lot of people see as disappointing. Well, I watched him and I said the guy looked absolutely fine. There was no drop off whatsoever, and he's ready to prove the naysayers and doubters wrong. I know what they're getting offensively with all the weapons that is going to be afforded to him in Denver. Can't say the same for Washington and their offense, even though I feel like the weapons are there. I don't know what we're getting out of Carson Wentz, but I'm hopeful it's good enough to put us in a position to do the things that I think we're capable of doing in the upcoming season, whatever the case may be. We're going to toast to all of that. I'm going to talk about a couple of big-time topics, some underrated and overrated players going into the season on both sides of the football for Washington. So it's a show you don't want to miss. So hopefully you'll be able to join me tomorrow night as we toast to the season on the Command Post live. So anyway, let's get to we already looked at that hashtag there. I got another super chat. Let's see if there's any more hashtags after this super chat that I get to. Really don't see anything else. So I will take this super chat and then we will move on to the final segment of the show. John Graves the third, my guy JG3, double up, thank you for doubling up. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, when's the next Come Correct? Love the first one. So I'm currently in the process of working on guests for the show. I really wanted to focus my attention this week on Washington content and, getting everything kind of lined up as we turn the calendar to August. But I expect another one of those episodes probably the first week of August, if I had to guess. So got a lot of stuff going on. Got to go ahead, get all of the extracurricular activities that I like to do, the winners and losers. Got to get that set up. I'm working on some merch that I would like to launch at the beginning of next month as well. Revamping the website. Oh, there's so much stuff going on right now. So I just wanted to kind of see if there was any legs with Come Correct. Obviously, there's a little bit of a palette for that. There's a little bit of I think a niche that can be carved out there. So I'm definitely coming back to it, and I'm hoping to get it to where every week. That's by the time the season rolls around, it's going to be every week. But I would like to get to that point in August where every week Come Correct, there's an episode of that. So look for it the first week of August. That would be my guess. First week of August is when you'll probably get a brand new episode of that. So let's transition to our final segment of the show and garbage time. So I know you guys have been keeping tabs of these alternate helmets that everyone's putting out. That's the new rage this year. So every team is trying to take advantage of this alternate helmet thing. And it's crazy because for a while there, the NFL, was doing the no fun league thing and not allowing you to wear alternative helmets. You had to wear, no matter if you wore a throwback, you had to wear your same helmet with it, which sucked. It doesn't look right. So now they're giving you a little bit more leeway. I think, if I'm not mistaken, you're able to wear 3 different helmets um, during the course of a season. I know for a fact that you're seeing a lot of teams with, this other alternate helmet. Um, Obviously, the Washington Commanders, with their new uniforms, they have a black alternate that they are going to wear. And I think actually you're only allowed to wear one alternate helmet, but you're allowed to wear it 3 times a year, I think is what I was told. We're seeing a lot of black. That's the theme of the year so far, is a lot of teams coming out with their alternate helmet. And a lot of teams already have a blackout uni where they wear all black. They just had to wear their same color helmet. For like for instance, Carolina, they have had a blackout uniform for a very long time, black on black, but they've always had to wear their silver Carolina Panther helmets with it. Now they're going to actually unveil a new black helmet to go with the black on black, and it's dope, right? Jets, same thing. They've always had a black on black uni, but they've always had to wear their green helmets. Now I think they're going to have a black helmet this year. So everybody's kind of doing that. That's the theme this year. We've seen some really dope black helmets. You're like, oh, that's nasty. The Saints are wearing an all black helmet, if I'm not mistaken, this year. And they've always had a black on black. I mean, their basic get up is black on black. So to throw a black helmet on with it might set it off. It may not. Who's to say? We'll see. But the Eagles, I think they're coming out with the black helmet this year. They've always had black on black. Now they got a black helmet to match. I think their fan base is more like, to hell with that. Just give us the Kelly Greens and we're straight. I don't think they're getting those until next year. But there have been some interesting, ones. The Chicago Bears have an all orange helmet that they're wearing against Washington, coincidentally enough, in week 6 on a Thursday night with their all orange uniforms. I think it's mid at best. I'm not blown away by the orange helmet. The orange Bears uniforms have never done it for me. So that one doesn't really, move me at all. It doesn't move the needle per se. I think the best one that I've seen, I know the best helmet that I've seen so far. And they're the one that they went off of the beaten path. Everybody else is kind of staying straight and narrow. Oh, black. You can't go wrong with black. They said, hey, we about to go futuristic on you, and we going white and black. It's the Cincinnati Bengals helmets. I would pretty much like to speak for everyone, and I don't like to, but I feel confident speaking for most of you when I say it doesn't get much better than that. That's as cold-blooded as it gets. I mean, if you can be cold and hot at the same time, that shit is cold. And if you touch it, it's hot. It's icy hot. Those helmets could go with their Color Rush uniforms that they wear every now and again, or it could just go with the white alternative uniforms that they wear. And I think that's what they're ultimately going to do, wear their all white uniforms with the white pants, and it's going to set it off. It's going to be sick. I even saw, people do creative shit online, and I always feel like the team should take notice to some of the shit that people are doing. Somebody had an all black Bengals get up with the black jerseys with the white stripes, and the same with the pants, and then the white helmets, and it was crispy. I'm talking about clean. Whew. Either way, they're going to be nasty. I would hate to be the team that gets those unveiled on them for the very first time. That's going to hurt. The worst ones that I've seen, and this is where I'm like, okay, you got to find a way to be better. Arizona Cardinals all black helmets. They're trash. That's the first helmet that I've seen where I go, oh, what the is that? It looks like the Louisville Cardinals helmet because they have black helmets with the Cardinal on it. That their all black helmet is ass. Um, they should have went all red or something like that. You know, all red helmets with the Cardinal and maybe outline the Cardinal in black or something or yellow so it made make it stand out on the helmet. But to just go all black, that Cardinal, first of all, he's blending with the black in the helmet, so the background kind of clashes with the black in the Cardinal logo, and that's why it looks like the Louisville Cardinal. It looks awful, and that's not for everybody. It's this whole alternate black helmet train that everybody shouldn't jump on that train. All right, league's giving you the leeway to have an alternate helmet. Find one that fits your team. Black isn't for everybody. So I don't know what says you out there. What's the best? What's the worst? All of the helmets in between are cool. Again, to me, the ones that stand out the most on the high side, on the good side, the Cincinnati Bengals white and black helmets, they're the best. On the low side, the worst are the Arizona Cardinals black helmets. They're trash. Everything in between, Panthers, Jets, Eagles, Bears, all these other teams that have thrown together their alternate helmet, Saints, they're cool. I got no problems with them. Can't wait to see what they'll look like. If I'm a team like Denver, I'm gonna just go and pull back the 80s and early 90s Denver helmets with the big D and the Bronco with the light. I'm not gonna try to reinvent the wheel. I'm gonna just pull that out, wear the orange crush jerseys. That's all I need. I don't like, if I'm a team that has an iconic uniform like that, I don't need to do all of that other shit. This is all I need to do is just throw it back. Like if you're Tampa, you don't need an alternate. Just throw the creamsicles on with the helmet, with the Tampa Bay Buccaneer with the sword in his mouth. Just throw that shit on. I don't need you to reinvent the wheel. I don't need a black helmet. I don't need this. Just throw it back. That's it. So we'll see how some of these other teams decide to approach these alternate helmets, because everyone gets an opportunity to have one if they want it. I say everyone in the league should take advantage of it. There's some dope ass helmets from yesteryear that could make a nice return with a throwback that could set it off. So anyway, I digress. One more thing before we get out of here. How about Kyler Murray's contract? So today we found out that there's a stipulation in Kyler Murray's contract that says that during the regular season, during each game week, he is required to watch at least 4 hours of film. Let me make sure it's a day. It might be a day. It might be for the week. Let me make sure I'm not giving you the wrong information. But I got an interesting perspective. I like to draw inferences about things. So I got an inference that I'm drawing. So this is the wrong phone. I don't even know where my other phone is. Let me look it up real quick on the interweb real fast. I think it's 4 hours of film per day. Kyler Murray film study. Let's see. It says 4 hours per week. So it's just per week, which is what I thought. A day, it would be a little excessive. It's 4 hours per week during a game week. So if you're okay, here's my stance on this. If my quarterback is watching 8 hours of film on game week per game, am I going to put a addendum in his contract that says he has to watch 4 if he's already watching more? If my quarterback's already watching 4 hours of film, would I put an addendum in his contract that states he has to watch 4 hours of film, continue to watch 4 hours of film? Clearly, Kyler Murray wasn't watching enough film. They knew that. They felt that way. And the reason they put it in the contract is because they want to ensure that he is watching film. And I don't know how they're going to keep tabs on this. Clearly, they've got devices that will keep track of when it is running, but they can't be assured that he's actually watching. And I read an article earlier where they were talking about, and it can't be him having the film on, but him doing something that will distract him, like playing a video game or on his phone. He has to actually be watching. How are you going to know? Okay. How are you going to be able to keep tabs if this man is at the crib playing Madden or 2K? How are you going to know that he's not actually playing the game, but rather watching film? I don't know how they're going to be able to keep tabs on that. And it has to be outside of the mandatory film study that they'll be doing in the building and the preparations for the game that upcoming week that he's doing in the building. It has to be separate of that. Okay. It can't be in conjunction with that. It has to be 4 hours independently of that. So what that says to me is he wasn't putting in the time and they knew it. How can you give a guy $230 million or 160? Okay, how can you give a guy $160 million after 3 years of work that you are admitting wasn't putting in enough work? And I'm pretty sure Kyler Murray himself has to have admitted to them he wasn't putting in enough work. That's why the addendum is in the contract. They wouldn't have put it in there if he was taking care of business, if he was doing the things that they thought was necessary. This is unprecedented. We've never heard of anything like this before. That's because teams generally don't give guys who aren't putting in the work, who aren't setting the example to the rest of the team. As the quarterback, whether you want it or not, you are now the leader of the team. And whether you lead vocally by example, or you lead by your play on the field and how you carry yourself in the building, and first in the building, last to leave, that type of thing, you're the leader, whether you want to be or not. And the team is going to go as you go. And if you're Kyler Murray and you're not putting in the work before you get the contract, why in the world do I think you're going to put in the work after I give you the contract? That doesn't make any sense to me. Generally, if a guy is someone that isn't willing to put in the work, generally he will reveal that to you before, but he'll make the most concerted effort to show you that you can trust him with this money before he gets paid, so he can get paid, and then he can totally be an ass about it, like Albert Hainsworth. I don't know how this is going to go. I already told you I don't like the lack of leadership with Kyler Murray. That's a problem for me. I've already stated this. Guy's a superior talent, which is why the Cardinals gave in and paid him the money. These types of talents don't grow on trees. Kyler Murray is a unicorn with his skill set, okay? He's a unicorn. However, there are red flags here. The red flags. I shouldn't be having to tell my franchise quarterback, who I spent the #1 overall pick to on, and just gave $160 million guaranteed on a contract that's worth $230.5 million. Shouldn't have to force him to watch 4 hours of game film during a week of an opponent coming up on Sunday or Thursday or on Monday. I shouldn't have to force him to do that. But that's the lack of leadership that I've talked about with Kyler Murray. He's going to have to show me. There are no words that are going to convince me that Kyler Murray is the right man to lead any NFL franchise. He's going to have to show me that. His play is good enough that he's probably been able to get away with not watching the amount of film that is necessary, which is why he's not in the top 10 of most lists in the league. When we're talking about Kyler Murray isn't in the top 10. He's not in my top 10. Why is he not in the top 10? Because of this shit right here. You want to know why Kyler Murray's throwing into double coverage? It's bad enough he doesn't like getting hit. I've talked about this already. Kyler Murray doesn't want to be hit. Okay? He will slide, and he's a small guy. I get it. Okay? It's about self-preservation. I understand. But Kyler Murray doesn't want to be hit. He's got that Eli Manning syndrome where you're about to hit him and he'll throw a no-look pass and won't feel bad about it. And I told you, he shows teammates up when a mistake is made and it's not his fault. He'll make sure that you know that the receiver ran the wrong route by showing them up on the field. I've already said his leadership isn't the greatest. And this is another, to me, red flag. This is another knock on Kyler Murray. He doesn't watch enough film. Hey, at the end of the day, the Cardinals will only go as far as Kyler Murray will take them. They know that, which is why they put this in his contract. Obviously, he's fine with watching the film, or at least giving the illusion that he's watching it, because he wants the money. He doesn't care about any of that other shit. He wants the money. I want to see. Actions speak louder than words. I want to see what he does now that he's gotten paid. And he's got his buddy, Hollywood Brown. He's got everything he needs now. No excuses. He'll get DeAndre Hopkins back after the first 6 weeks. He's got Hollywood Brown. They got the young kid from Purdue last year. He looks like a player. They got AJ Brown back. AJ Green, excuse me. It's AJ Green. They got Zachary Ertz back. They got the running back, James Conner back. I think they might have even added a running back because they lost Chase Edmonds to the Dolphins in free agency. So I think they added another running back. There's no excuse. They got everything they need. Now they just need him to stay healthy. 1, 2, play better. 3, be a better leader. We'll see. Anyway, that is my conclusion to that. He just didn't watch enough film, and I'm pretty sure we're gonna hear in the coming days, if it's not already out there now, that Kyler Murray admits I didn't watch enough film. We're gonna hear that. Anyway, that's going to do it for me, your man, Louie T, here on the 278th installment of the Louie T Network podcast. I thank you guys for joining me. I look forward to chopping it up with you throughout the course of the week. The next time we meet, which should be Wednesday, I can't guarantee you that it'll be Wednesday, but it should be Wednesday. It will be the, NFC. We might come back to the AFC, because the two teams in the NFC championship game were for the same division. We've already broken down that division. The Chiefs, we've already done the two teams in the AFC championship games divisions. So who do I think was the next, best team that didn't make it? I guess Green Bay. I guess we can go to the Packers. They were the number 1 seed in the NFC, and we'll go to the number 1 seed in the AFC and Tennessee Titans. So I think we'll go Green Bay Packers in the NFC North next. And then after that, we'll go down south to the AFC South for the Tennessee Titans. And then we'll go from there. Wait, let's go. I think we should go AFC East. Buffalo was better than any of those teams, honestly speaking. So we'll go AFC East next, then NFC North, then the AFC South. And I think after that, all we'll have left is the NFC South. And that's it, I think. NFC South at that point. Because we've got the AFC South, AFC North already. We've got the AFC West already. And we're going to do the East and the South with the Titans. So, yeah, I think we just have the NFC South will be the last division that we'll do, and that will finish us up. So that's going to do it for me, your man, Louie T. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Remember, ridiculous week of content, whether it's on my channel or someone else's. So keep your ears to the street. Keep your eyes open. I'm going to be posting about everything tomorrow. Toast to the season. If you are available, I'd love for you to come chop it up with us. Bring a beverage of your choice, and we are going to chop it up. I'm going to have my wine. Y'all know those shows can sometimes go off the rails in a good way, not in a bad way, in a good way. I won't be lit like that. I shouldn't be, at least, but we'll see. I just got one bottle because I usually don't drink during the weekdays. So this is a special occasion. Toast to the season. See you for that live tomorrow night. Wednesday, I'll be over on Rio's channel. Hopefully we'll be here earlier in the day for the podcast. Then on Rio's channel later that night with Ed and Rico. Should be a great roundtable discussion there about the Commanders. Then Thursday, we'll be live. The very first practice of camp will be in the books, and we should have a lot to chew on there as well. So with that said, keep watching the content that's already on the channel. There's a lot of stuff out there. If you've already gone through all of it, There'll be more for you to consume throughout the course of the week. But until then, you guys enjoy the rest of your evening. Take care. Get off the bench, get in the game, kick it with me, your man Louie T. As always, you guys take care. God bless and good night.
LouieTeeNetwork.